Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our masterclass today on creating game-changing teams to drive productivity and results. And as I said earlier on, I'd love this to be really interactive. We are quite a small group, despite the number of people that registered for this. So I am just recording this, hopefully with your permission, so that we can share it with all the people that couldn't make it today. So I do have a bit of a slide deck, and we'll be running through that, and we've got some polls and some interaction as well. And we'll run for somewhere between about 45 to 50 minutes, hopefully. But in Julia fashion, if the conversation gets good, might run a few minutes longer, but feel free to drop out whenever you need to. So let's kick off here. Oops. Let me share my screen. Okie dokie. So, as I said, today we're talking about creating game-changing teams to drive productivity and results. And I love talking about teamwork because I just think it is this competitive superpower in business that we really don't access and use enough, and it can make a difference to everything that we do. So what's our focus going to be for our next sort of 45, 50 minutes? We're going to look at why teamwork's the hidden ingredient for business success, what creates an effective team and how to leverage this, how to drive performance and achieve innovation by creating game-changing teams. So my intention is that by the end of this next 45, 50 minutes, you'll fully understand the tools and resources that are available so that you can help figure out how each of your team members contribute value and impact to your business, how you can leverage your team's energy for optimal results, and therefore how you can motivate and inspire your team members so they're more engaged and deliver more productivity. So hopefully that's what you thought was on the agenda today, and that is what we are going to cover. So I always think it's good to set a bit of context, and there's a lot of you on the call today that I've never met before. So let me just take one quick moment at the beginning here just to set a bit of context, and you'll understand why I'm sharing this a little bit later on. But I always think that the way that we get high performance teams and great productivity is everyone understands and shares the same purpose. So I thought, well, I would just kick off today and share with you what my purpose is all about. So my purpose is to transform the way that businesses operate for all stakeholders by harnessing the energy of nature to empower and inspire the development of exceptional leaders and high-performing teams. And everything we do in my business is called Business Horsepower. We challenge the status quo and create work environments where team members can make an impact through building relationships based on connection, collaboration, and contribution. And I do that in a number of different ways. I lead a number of workshops and run training sessions on how to create high performance leaders. I work helping team members develop through the talent cycle. I'm also an author and a speaker. And I also include experiential learning and development within my portfolio of skills. So one of the things I love better than anything else is to bring leaders out to the barn where I have some horses. Deb, I don't ride mine very often, but I have a little herd of horses, and bring leaders out so they can learn development skills from the horses. And I just think that that's a really powerful way to bring leadership to life. Sometimes leadership and teamwork, when we talk about them, they can be quite elusive. They're difficult to get our heads around what's really going on. So we actually create experiences where people can experience it in the moment. And the horse is always ruthless with their feedback about your leadership style and whether it's inspiring or compelling for them. But before we kick off today, I just wanted to start this with a little bit of a poll. And let's launch the poll here. Let's find it. Polls and quizzes, here we go. So this is our first poll for today. And let's launch this. Okay, so the question today that I'd love you all to answer is, which of the following trends represents the biggest challenge in your business? Is it technology, process, or people? And I would love you all just to vote on that for me. Okay. People. Okay. Okie dokie. Right. Okay. So everyone's voted. Thank you very much. So let's end the poll there. Okay. And let's share the results. Okay. So hopefully you can see there that 67% of you, so 2/3 of you think it's the people, 22% the process, and 11% the technology. And for sure, all of these areas impact our business. But usually when we find to people, when we're talking to people, it is the people aspect that's the one headache that keeps people awake most at night. So let's just... So let me here reshare this with you. And let me just ask a quick question. Is anyone surprised by those results or think anything different, or anyone want any comments on whether it's the people, the process, or the technology, because they're all interrelated? Anyone got any thoughts you want to share on that?
I think for me, the process and technology or anything else in a business is the easy thing to identify.
Yeah.
It's the application bit, which is the people bit.
Absolutely, Andy. Yeah. And I think this is the thing. We invest a lot of time, don't we, in getting the right systems and processes in place. And of course we need them. But if our team members aren't actively engaged, then they don't deliver it. They don't execute it in the way that we want. So thank you for that. So let's just share here and let's move on. Share there. Okay. So yeah, so when we look at the 3 ways that we can make an impact, as we said, all of these areas, and I love that we've put them together in this interrelated, because like you just said there, Andy, one can't exist without the other. You know, if we have people, but we don't have any processes or technology, everything falls apart. We can't, you know, obviously there's a lot of talk at the moment about AI and the impact on business. But if we've got all of this technology, but the people don't understand how to use it, then that's going to become a challenge. And again, you know, we need processes, we need systems to make it work. So everything needs to work together. But for most of my clients that I talk to, people is kind of the biggest headache, because it's the one that's slightly more, I'm going to use the word intangible. It's more difficult to get our hands around, right? Because we're dealing with something that's very, very dynamic. So let's just talk a little bit about what is a team, so that we're all getting on the same page here. So a team can be defined simply as a group of individuals united in pursuit of a common mission or goal. And they're often sacrificing personal agendas for the sake of the team accomplishment. So I love the phrase, you know, there's no I in team. And for me, you know, when we think about a team, it is the acronym TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. And when we all work together effectively in a kind of ecosystem, and we understand that the impact that each of us make has an impact on everyone else in the team, then I think that that's when we can start making a massive difference in the world. And over the years, when I've been looking at teamwork and how this operates, I often look to nature for a solution. And I've always been inspired by this quote from Albert Einstein: look to nature and you will understand everything better. Because in my opinion anyway, I think that the way that we lead and run businesses in today is not fit for purpose for the 21st century. And we need a new model, one that's based on collaboration and cooperation. And these are things that we find all the time in nature, because when we look to nature, we see this collaboration and cooperation in the symbiotic relationships that exist. And here's a picture of a water buffalo and a cattle egret. And I love the symbiosis that exists in this relationship, because out there on the African plains, the cattle egret there is sitting on top of the water buffalo. He provides some kind of visual lookout for the water buffalo on what might be happening in the environment. But also he picks the ticks off the water buffalo's back. So, you know, he's his own personal grooming attendant, if you want. And the water buffalo, reciprocates because he's providing the food and the ticks for the cattle egrets. So there's this symbiosis going on in nature, because nature appreciates that everything is an ecosystem and one thing has an impact on everything else. I often talk about the ripple effect in business and how within business we need to be aware that everything we do is impacting everybody else and everything else. And of course, one of the challenges that we've got in business today is where we have challenges. Let's take something like the NHS, where we have a really systemic problem going on there. And often what we see is money being thrown at one area to sort it. But the problem is it causes a challenge throughout the rest of the organization, because this has a knock-on effect on all the different areas. And I'd really love you to be aware of that and really think about that when we're making business decisions about what is the impact on all the other areas of the business, because often we forget about that. We think about what's happening in our own area and how we can improve that without really thinking about the ramifications for everyone else. And this is why I really want us to start looking at leadership and teamwork through this systemic lens of how I do one thing and how it impacts everybody else. So why do teams work? Well, teams work because of teamwork. And some of the advantages of teamwork are that they allow for problem solving, as more skills and experience can be used to find the right solutions. Teamwork lets us work faster than a single person can do by themselves. And the tasks can be spread out so we can give them to the people with the right abilities. And this is what we're really going to be delving into today. How do we get the right tasks to the right people, and how do we know that? Really, really important thing, and I think probably we can all agree, is that teams are successful because of the relationships that we have in them. So relationships develop as the team work together. So it's really important that we remove barriers and conflicts that can slow projects down. And also teamwork allows for this mutual learning, this mutual collaboration, as everyone can learn from each other's skills. And as a result of that, motivation is increased as the team help and encourage each other. So for me, teamwork is this result of 1 + 1 = 3. There's just so much more we can achieve if we work together as teams. And I mean, I think it's really interesting. We're looking at the moment, obviously, we're in the height of the Olympic Games, and we've just seen some amazing examples of how teamwork can get everybody over the line. And I just think about the rowers there, some of the narrowest margins that they've had to win by, but how that they've all pulled together to make everything work. And of course, if one person in that boat was out of sync, then we wouldn't have got the results that we did. So what's the contra of this? When do teams underperform? Well, team members underperform when they're distrustful of one another. Trust is a massive concept within business, and we really need to consciously spend time building trust with people. Some of you may be familiar with Stephen Covey's The Speed of Trust, that talks about the more trust there is in an organization, the lower the cost of doing business. Teams underperform when they're not able to handle conflict constructively. And a lot of my clients say to me, well, you don't really want conflict within a team. I would really disagree with that. I think conflict is super, super healthy, but we actually need to know how to handle it constructively and use that energy to channel it to make things work for us. It's great to have a difference of opinion, different skills and expertise, because that's what makes a team diverse and also very inclusive and gives us the best opportunity to get the results we want. When a team is misaligned or lacking commitment, then we're also going to get underperformance. And this misalignment happens when everyone's not clear on this compelling vision and purpose for why we're doing what we're doing. everybody in the team always needs to know why, what the reason is. You know, those Olympic rowers are really clear on what they want to achieve. They really want to go out. They want to get gold. They want to perform the best they can on the day. So they've got a shared vision, a shared purpose on where they want to go. I'm seeing this increasingly in organizations at the moment, underperformance through lack of accountability for results. So the passing the hot potato, it's not my area, it's not my responsibility. And there's a number of organizations I'm working with right now on this particular topic about how do we instill more accountability into people so that they realize what is their accountability and their responsibility for getting a job done. And of course, we underperform when we don't complete the process and the project on time and within budget. And also a massive type of underperformance is when we fail to innovate. We've seen a myriad of businesses in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years that have failed to innovate and gone by the wayside. And just a classic one would be Kodak. You know, they didn't really respond very effectively to the digitalization of prints. And so they kind of fell by the wayside. People like Blockbuster, where we used to get our videos from. And of course, the famous one, at one point, perhaps you did like me, had the Nokia phone. You know, that was the top of its day, but they failed to innovate and Apple just took their place in the marketplace. So that's when we have some underperformance going on in the marketplace. But I think it's all summarized here by this really great quote from Michael Jordan, which is talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. So how do we get teamwork and intelligence working? Well, it's all about, in the words of Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, and then get the right people in the right seats to move your organization from good to great. Because what we've clearly seen over time is if we can get the right people in the right seats on the bus, then everything improves. But time and time again, I see people in organizations doing roles because they can do them, but it's not where their zone of genius is. It's not where their energy is. It's not the thing they love to do. And I've been guilty of this throughout my career as well. At one point, I took a piece of freelance work in an organization, and I was doing a lot of customer service. And as I'll share with you in a moment, that's not where my zone of genius lies. And I did the work to begin with, and it was all right for the first few months. And I rapidly found myself losing motivation and enthusiasm for the role. And therefore, I wasn't delivering the best productivity and profitability to the company because I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. So this is the big $1 million question, isn't it? How do we get these right people in the right roles? Well, today I want to share with you a tool and an assessment that I use that I have found has been really, really powerful with my clients. And some of you on the call will have already taken this assessment. And if you haven't, I encourage you to take it afterwards. But it's called the GC Index, and it bridges the gap between what's going on in the business and the information that our HR teams have. And we create this language that really can help us make business decisions because we can join here, as I said, this gap between what's going on in HR and what's going on in business. And the GC Index has been used by over 2,000 companies in over 50 countries, from small organizations to large multinationals. And I know what some of you might be saying, oh, Julia, this is just another personality profile. But let's just delve into this a little bit more. The GC Index is actually what we call an organometric, because I think we can probably all agree when we're making decisions about our businesses, we can figure out what expertise people have. We can also find out what experience they've got. And we can also do one of the myriad of personality tests about people. But really, as an employer, what we want to know is what is the impact this person is going to make in our organization. And I love this quote from Joe Lewis, the talent director of TM Forum, who says, being a GC people company, so this is a company that uses the GC index, enables us to recruit people for the impact they want to make, value people for the impact they do make, and develop people for the impact they have the potential to make. So when we're thinking about our teams, we can put people in roles where they are going to make that difference to the organization, where they have what we call energy for impact. They're doing things that make a difference and make a contribution to the business, and where the team member is highly engaged and actually wants to do that task. Because making people decisions can be tricky, right? We've got a whole myriad of variables out there. But you know, when we're either recruiting people into the business or assigning people to different teams, we want to know, how does this person drive change? Can they deliver? Could they bring the team together? Can the person plan for success? Is this person innovative? Can this person drive improvement? And how are we going to find all those things out? And this is where the GC index, which stands for Game Changing Index, comes into play to help us create these high performance teams that deliver great levels of productivity and profitability. So let me just share with you at a high level what the GC index is actually measuring. It's really measuring our capacity for original thought, which we call imagination, and our ability to drive those ideas into reality, which we call obsession. And we have 5 different profiles of people. And I think it's really important to say people are a mix of all of these profiles. But the ones that you have the highest energy for, you will get the highest scores for. So on the top, we have imagination, and we have people called strategists and game changers. And these are the people that have got the imagination, and they can come up with ideas and possibilities for the business. And on the bottom half, we have people that are more action orientated. And these are our implementers and polishers. And they're all about tangible outcomes and the pursuit of excellence. And in the middle, we have our playmakers, who are all about how do we create a collective endeavor and drive collective contribution. So they're about how do we bring everyone together within the organization. And so we've got this mix of ideas focused, task focused, and people that are more pragmatic and people that have more of an obsession. So let me just delve into what each of these are. I'm going to describe them to you. And then I would love for you to share in the chat when I finish them, which one you think you resonate most highly with. So when we think about the game changers, these are individuals who generate the best original ideas, really important original ideas. Everyone in an organization can generate ideas, but these are original ideas and possibilities that have the potential to be transformational. And I will just say that sometimes in large, somewhat more traditional organizations, the game changers are sometimes those people that are seen to be very disruptive to the status quo. Because they're always coming up with these original ideas. And as much sometimes as organizations say they want these original ideas, when push comes to shove, they don't. So the game changers transform the future, whereas the strategist maps the future. And they're best when they engage others with clear direction and focus. So these are the people that are great at coming up with plans about what we need to do within the organization. And where their skill set lies, it particularly is taking the ideas of game changers and transforming those into plans that everyone else can understand. And then next we have playmakers. So playmakers orchestrate the future. They're individuals who are at their best. They focus on getting the best from others in support of agreed objectives. So they're very much about the team and how everybody works together and making sure everyone on the team operates effectively. And then we have our implementers. Implementers build the future. These are the action takers. They make things happen within their organization. And they're at their best when they shape the strategic plans and deliver tangible outcomes. So the implementers are great at taking what the strategist comes up with and actually doing the work and making it happen. And then finally, we've got polishers. And the polishers create a future to be proud of. They focus on making things better. They're all about continual improvements and the pursuit of excellence. They are always looking for something to be the best. They are the perfectionists. And the challenge for polishers, of course, is that sometimes they want to perfect so much that things actually never happen. And some of you might relate to this, where you've got a piece of work and it's never quite good enough and you never put it out there. I'm like, I could just make this bit better or this bit better. And of course, the challenge is, and for those of you running your own business will know, that sometimes good has to be good enough. If we keep waiting to perfect something, there's nothing that's ever perfect. We actually have to put things out there and get feedback from our customers on what they want. You know, Apple is really great, right? They put out a version of the iPhone and then they continue to refine it because they get feedback from our customers on what's working best for them. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen a moment and just ask people, do you want to put in the chat or feel free to shout out which of those 5 profiles resonates most with you? Do you see yourself more as a game changer, or that's, you know, coming up with ideas? Do you see yourself as more a strategist or an implementer or a polisher or a playmaker? You want to pop in the chat? Let's see what we've got going on. Or if anyone wants to just jump up and say something. So Paul thinks playmaker, implementer. Paul, do you want to share why you believe that is for you?
Well, I'm definitely not a perfectionist. So it's good enough. It is good enough, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I've spent a career getting people to do things. So I'd say I was on that more active, get things done, make things happen.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's wrong, we can sort it out later.
Yeah. Okay, great. Andy, you think you're a game changer, so you're all about ideas, right?
Well, a difficult one, because as you say, we have a lot of all of them in us, don't we?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
And to some extent, what Paul has just said sort of resonates a little bit with how I am. But I think out of all of those, I probably just think I see opportunities for improvement and change probably ahead of a lot of other people. So that's probably where I start. But again, I wouldn't put myself down as a total perfectionist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, it's like you say, we all have a mix of all of these, and you'll see when I'm sharing some of the results in a moment for people. But what's important is that we recognize that when we're working with teams and we're working with ourselves, is that we put ourselves in roles that talk to these best things that we love to do, right? Otherwise, we end up in a situation like I shared earlier on, where I was doing a role that was very much an implementer role, which is not the thing I love to do. And then I found I got drained of energy because I didn't have energy to do that type of thing. Oh, Andrew says, yeah.
Sorry. On my cord, it says Frederick M. or something over.
I know it does, yeah. Yeah.
I'm called Ruth.
Yeah,
anyway.
that's right.
So I think depends on your role that you're given, but it depends also on the deadlines. So if you work in an industry where you know there are deadlines that have to be met, then obviously that gives you a focus to work to. I've worked in tourism marketing for Middlesbrough, believe it or not. When the last shipyard closed, I was the first tourism officer for Middlesbrough, 12 years, and also in the Peak District. So you had deadlines to meet, but you also had to. I don't have any staff at the moment. I have a small business. I'm self-employed, so I am the staff. I have breakfast on my own. But
you're doing all the roles, right?
Yeah, I do.
Because you're running your own business.
Roles. I do all the roles. And it took me a while to realise, yes, Ruth, you've done it before, so you're capable of doing the roles. But collaboration had to follow the strategy and implementation, because otherwise, if you don't get the team of the diverse people you work with behind you, you waste energy. So we did just to give you an example, we did a big conference called Tourism in Middlesbrough. You must be joking. It was over 30 years ago now. And my boss said, what's happened to this conference? I thought it was only 20 people. I got it for 150 people. I said, well, if we're going to do it, we'll do it properly, and we'll get all the stakeholders from the Department of Environment who could give us some dosh. People who couldn't be there, we used Radio Cleveland at the time to interview them. So we have sound bites. Got somebody from another part of the country to show how they've done it. And I think, it's a platform of different spokes in a wheel that you have to work on at different stages, depending on what targets you have to meet. If you have to be at an exhibition by November with all your material ready, unless you want to waste all the energy that's been put and resources have been put up to get money into your place, then you have to meet that deadline. But in the lower time, in the times you can do it, you can do other things and should do other things as well. Yeah, that's my view.
And and absolutely, we've got to meet the deadlines. I think what I'm saying here. Sorry, I don't. What is your name? Sorry, my apologies.
Ruth English.
You say Ruth.
Ruth English.
Ruth, nice to meet you, Ruth.
Called Frederick Emerald.
Oh yeah.
So you know what language that is anyway.
Don't worry, it's fine. So so Ruth, what it is about, you've got that deadline. So how do you have people at the beginning who are the strategists to put together the strategy of what you need? Then of course you need some people running around making sure you've got all the collateral ready and stuff like that, rather than one person trying to do it all. And I'm sure, you might probably like me within a business where, sometimes if we're a solopreneur, small business, maybe we're trying to do all the roles. And you definitely know that there's some you enjoy and some that energize you and you love to do, and other bits of your business that, you have to grind, right?
Yeah, sure.
You have to energize yourself and inspire and motivate and gamify, maybe even to get it done. That's what happens with me doing my accounts anyway.
Exactly. And that's when you know that there are, as my boss at Middlesbrough, I'm still in touch with 26 years later, always said when I got that job in economic development, pay somebody else to do the jobs that, you would be better spending your time doing the better jobs. Or, not better jobs, but more qualified to do. Yeah,
and absolutely. And I know when I was in the corporate world, I used to I was an entrepreneur within corporate, and I run my own specialist hotels and leisure team, which was a business I took from an idea on a piece of paper to the global market leader, and then sold it for the company. I worked for Deloitte at the time. And I remember it back in those days going, I'm not going to give so-and-so that job to do because it's really awful and I hate it. And I'm so nice not giving it to them, But actually, what I then discovered was they love to do that job that I hated, right? So it's like, how do we put people in the roles that suit them best, where they've got the most energy? And we can't find that out just by doing a personality profile. We need to find out where their value and contribution and impact is to the organization so that we can put them in the right spaces.
Could I say something else which is relevant, which is quite good for me to say this? Because I think as you get older, I have a market stall and I sell produce, but I haven't got another little job in an engineering company recently. And it's taken me a long time at nearly 68 to realise I'm not too old, I can still do it. But I think your time of life matters as well, where you have got lots of experience under your belt. And I don't think older people are valued enough to realise that is an asset, and it really needs to be pushed more in this country. I have got a letter in my head to Keir Starmer coming up when he's got rid of a few of the other issues that are going on. Because at Middlesbrough, we did work to the top. We had nothing to lose. So my boss always encouraged us to aim for issues which affect a lot of people. But a lot of people are frightened to feel that they can do it still. And it's so wrong, isn't it? So timing in your life is important as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, clearly we need to take on board expertise, like we said earlier on, and experience as well. But, sometimes, within CVs and stuff like that, people can say that they can do things and then they can't. And, therefore, that's where if we figure out what their impact is, then that's when they're going to make the best difference. So let's just have a look here about why this is so profound for you guys, because let's just share that. We can see how everything here joins together. So you create the original ideas, somebody makes sense of them, somebody makes it happen, somebody makes it brilliant, and then everyone works together. And far too often in organizations, when we look at things, and particularly, in the entrepreneurial community, maybe we've got a lot of game changers. That's why they've come up with original ideas and set up their business. But maybe they're really struggling to get any funding because they can't make sense of those ideas in a way that other people can understand them. So they need to partner with a strategist who can help distill their ideas, for example. So I love that this creates, the whole life cycle of a business, and how then we can figure out, well, who do we need on a project at the right time? Who's going to make the most impact for us? So there were over 60 people that registered for today's workshop. So I've just pulled some of people's results out here anonymously, and I'll give you the opportunity to find out what yours are at the end. But as you can see here, when we provide people and they've taken the assessment, and if you haven't taken the assessment, you've not got the link, let us know, and we'll provide that to you so that you can do that. People are scored, as I said, between 1 and 10. And people have a huge range of different scores. And I don't like the word categorize people, but we pick people's 2 what we call proclivities. That's your energy for impact, and that's what you are. So if we look at number 5 there, which is on the far right-hand side at the top, that particular person has a 10 on Playmaker and a 7 on their Polisher. So they are a Playmaker Polisher. That's where their 2 highest impact for energy scores are. Let's have another look at another example. Bottom left, we have a game changer polisher down there with a 9 and a 6. Let's see, somebody here person number, let's see, number 9 here. They've got very, very high scores on the action side here. They've got high scores on the action with an 8 and 6. And then high scores on the, that's the word I'm looking for here, collaboration side with the strategist implementer. Not so much imagination. Or if we look at the person number 12 right at the bottom, we can see that they don't have, they've only got a 2 there on game changers. So they've not got such a capacity for original ideas. That person with an 8 on implementer would probably be best served in a role where they are following instructions, executing what somebody else has done, and then their polisher will want to make that better to start perfecting it once it is created. So when we have this information, it becomes much easier to figure out where we should put people in the organization, and indeed what teams we should put people on, depending what we're doing. So let me just help you understand this a little bit better by taking my results. So I am a Playmaker game changer. So Playmaker tops all the others. If you've got a draw on the scores, the Playmaker tops that. So that's why I'm a Playmaker, and Game Changer tops Polisher. So you can see I actually have a 7 on 3 of the proclivities, and then a 6 and a 5. So it makes sense that when I was doing that role that was very much an implementer customer service role, I enjoyed interacting with the people, but the actual process stuff I didn't enjoy, which is why I got disengaged in the role quite quickly. So when you get your report, you'll actually be able to see how you score on all of these different areas. And my profile, I think probably because everything I've done, I've got similar-ish type scores on a lot of areas, whereas, you know, we saw on the previous one that some people can have really high scores, 10s and 9s on individual areas. So it really depends sometimes on the type of career we've done, where we've got used to working and what we love to do the most. And then when we go into the profiles, you get about a 30-page report that helps you understand how you have the greatest impact in your organization. So as I said, mine's in the role of playmaker, polisher, and game changer. So I'm best at when I deliver effectively through others, facilitating debate and discussion in a way that seeks consensus and remind people of their commitments to the team. That's why I love to run masterclasses, sharing knowledge, having discussions with people about what's going on. And my game changer score says I'm engaged by new ideas and possibilities, and that's definitely true. I have my own need for creative expression, and I often see possibilities that others don't. But also with that polisher score as well, I bring energy to review, learning, and continuous improvement, and the pursuit of excellence. And I always want to deliver high standards when it matters. So I enjoy being in teams that have pride in their efforts and achievement. And I have less energy for routine tasks and good enough delivery. So I love this sentence at the end because I think this really sums me up really well. My 4 strongest proclivities suggest I'm most engaged when I'm involved in leading edge projects that give me the opportunity to work with others, my playmaker, generate new ideas, game changer, have practical applications, polisher, and can support the achievement of strategic objectives, strategists. And so when I read that, it's no big surprise that my business is called Business Horsepower. And we do really, really innovative stuff. We're always about challenging the status quo, doing things differently. The way I'm doing that is through partnering with horses to create high performance teams. And if you look back then again to, and I'll share with you what I shared at the beginning, my purpose, you can see the colors. So the sort of the green color is the game changer type. Game changer is all about transformation and challenge. Playmaker attributes more about stakeholders, empowerment, relationships, collaboration. And my polisher attributes coming out in terms of the words exceptional. And we actually have a piece of AI that overruns this. So it's really interesting when we start looking at companies' websites and mission statements to see the language they use. And does that resonate with the people that they're hiring into the business? So when we look at those 12 profiles, and we can then produce an aggregate summary result, and of the 12 that I picked up there, the overall energy and is around that polisher contribution. So this is great because we can then figure out, well, you know, if we've got a team that is in marketing and needs to come up with loads of original ideas, but we've got a profile like this, we might be a bit challenged because we've got very little game changer energy, right? They're going to be great at refining and improving marketing campaigns, but they're not going to be the best group for coming up with new ideas because that game changer energy is quite low. So that might mean we need to bring new people into the team that have got some higher game changer energy in order to get it a bit more balanced. So therefore, we can use this as well to help us with diversity and inclusion within the team. And we also provide for you some ways in how you can help influence and engage with the different profiles. And I think this is really important because, you know, if we just take this polisher, for example, a polisher is going to want, for example, if you're a business owner and you're selling to them, something that demonstrates your credibility and standards earlier on. They're going to want something that's got quite a lot of detail in, so that they can check what's in your proposal. They're not going to want to engage with an organization or an individual who they don't think is going to give their best. So that gives us some clues about how we could write a proposal or how we're going to influence them. So it's really helpful when we understand the energy for impact of people and how we can use this in a myriad of different ways, including how to lead them, motivate them, as I said, influence them, and engage them. And from your perspectives, this works across all the business areas. I mainly use it in the areas of HR and talent and organizational culture because those are the areas I focus on. But what this does is it gives us one piece of data that can be used in a number of different ways throughout the organization: business and strategy, HR and talent, organizational culture, and change transformation. So here's just a quick example of that, because I know we're moving towards the end of that. We can map the right energies to the right project. So let's just take this example on the top row of cost reduction. In the beginning of a cost reduction program, we're going to want a lot of people with some original ideas on the team to help us come up with those ideas. And then, of course, we need some strategists to put that into plans with some support from our playmakers, implementers, and polishers. But once we've decided what the cost reductions are going to be, and we've identified those opportunities, then we need to agree the plan, communicate the benefits to the stakeholders. So we're going to need a lot more strategists then to do that, and a lot more playmaker energy in the team in order to get everybody on board. And then you can see the game changer energy required in that phase of the project is much less. Then go on to the next part of the project. When we execute the plan, then of course we need very, very high implementer energy within the group, and also high playmaker. And finally, when we get to embedding the processes and the lessons learned, we want some really high energy on the team from our polishers who can help refine and make and perfect everything. So once we understand everyone's energy for impact, we can build game-changing teams based on the energies that people have, rather than, oh, these are all the people in the IT department and they need to be on this project. They might all be implementers, for example, and that's not going to give us new ideas that we need for the project, for example, or original ideas. So this is one tool that can be super, super powerful for you to use either individually within your organizations, or indeed, you know, if you're a coach or a consultant, you want to work with clients as well. So we have one data point that's got multiple applications and therefore just one investment cost. So you figure out you can figure out your personal impact, the impact of the team, what people's L&D might be. We can create inclusive leadership. And as I said, we're using this tool a lot to help in the whole area of diversity and inclusion, core values, cultural change, onboarding and recruiting, aligning HR and business, and then for business processes, business change, and stakeholder management. So I have gone through an awful lot there today. So let me just stop sharing a moment and just find out. Has anyone got any comments that they'd like to share, insights, anything else?
Yes, Julia.
Please.
Yes. It's very, very interesting. It almost reminds me of some of the games my son plays, where everybody has that sort of various category of types of skill set. If this were implemented, is it? And I'm assuming nobody's static. Is this something that should be regularly reviewed? And if so, sort of how often would one do it? Because what I'm sort of slightly concerned about is everybody walks around with their label, "I'm this," and then you're pigeonholed. Which I don't think it's what you're suggesting. But it'd be interesting to know how you would deal with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thank you for asking, Andrew. People can change, and we do see people change, and often that's an effect of environment. You know, I'm sure if I spent long enough doing customer service and I could summon up enough energy to do it all day, I could become excellent at customer service, but it's not naturally where my energy lies. We find change happens most where people have quite low scores across the board. And we call them what we call a latent profile. They kind of haven't decided where they want to put their energy. And then once they find it, then we see it expand. And definitely, we don't want to use this to pigeonhole people, but it is more about finding out where their energy is, where their contribution is, and how they can use that. And I think people get fueled because when I see that I do something and I create some original ideas, that's what fuels me to do more of it. And actually excites me, it galvanizes me. I'm like, yeah. And that's, I think, why I'm always about challenging the status quo and doing things differently. But it's always worth checking, but it's probably a function of somebody being either in a role that's so directly not using their energy. And one would hope that if somebody's in that role, that they might be brave enough to put up their hand and go, I'm really not loving this, and either get another job or ask for some change within the organization. The problem is we know a lot of people don't do that. So, yeah. But thank you for asking that, Andy. Anyone else? Any comments, observations you want to make?
At the risk of asking too many questions, may I ask another one?
Please, of course.
It may be a factor of the organisations I've worked for, but I've often found, I was just thinking about it as sort of drew the categories out, that the organisations tend to value the action people. Something is being done, and don't necessarily which has an immediate impact, good or bad or indifferent, but don't necessarily value the other longer, slower burn aspects. And that may be, I'd be interested to see my results. I'll say, well, that's where I sit. But how do you deal with organisations to sort of walk them through that? Because also lots of people will talk about we need an inclusive, diverse workforce in terms of thinking and such like. When you're in there, it doesn't always appear that way. There is sort of get this email done and lots of busyness and such like, which doesn't drive productivity.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, organizations have to make results, and I agree. There's a lot of organizations that value implementation, and I understand that. The problem is that you get to a point about what you're implementing because you haven't come up with any new ideas and any new strategies to do it. What we found is that when we work with organizations, and once they understand how this is a holistic whole and you need all of the bits to make it work, each organization will have its own energy. It might be more of an implementer, polisher organization, or it might be more of a game changer, playmaker, or playmaker, game changer organization. But what we'll do is we can do this at an organizational level and figure out the energy of the organization. And is that the right energy that they need aspirationally to get to where they want to go? Maybe they need to make some shifts, and maybe that means bringing in different people. And that's why I said at the beginning, Andrew, that those game changers are sometimes seen as the disruptive people within organizations, and they were actually the reason that this research, which is underpinned by a load of psychometric data, came about, because we were trying to find out, all these organizations were saying that they wanted all these new innovative ideas that were really original, but when people came to do it, they were getting shut down, and because it was kind of disrupting the status quo. And I'm happy to share, there's a white paper that we've written on the DNA of game changers and how they impact organizations and how this came about. And it's really fascinating to see what organizations say and what they do are actually quite different. So yeah, happy to share that as well with everyone.
I'd just like to come back in. That's all right. I found the best organization. Thank you. I found the best organizations have a really good leader that everybody trusts, who can work across every level. So the late John Foster, whose funeral I went to, that's a telling point in itself, who was the chief executive of Middlesbrough Council, won an OBE for his services to the community up there. Really good bloke. He had a cohort of people below him, if that's what you want to call it. And they were, and we all did project management, so we owned a certain area. So, for example, I had to do the signposting and interpretation of Middlesbrough. I was the person to go to on that subject. And then you have ownership, and people have, and whereas, and I'm not trying to be big-headed about this, but people can be a bit wishy-washy. They can get lost in an organisation. But if you can show that all their views are going to be heard, and there's somebody they can be directed to, that does really help. And I've worked at other authorities which could be in a more beautiful area in perception, but the leadership and the management was absolutely appalling, to the point that they had KPMG came in as a review. And it was like, oh my Lord, there's an expectation that everybody runs a system really well, but they certainly don't. One person can make all the difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The success of any organization is very much based on the leader and leadership qualities that they have. So I'm conscious that we're at the top of the hour. So I wanted to provide you with some opportunity to figure out what's going on next for you. So let me just do this. Where have we gone? Sorry. Right, let's just do that. So hopefully you found today really, really informative. And if you're really interested in, I'm happy to sit down and offer everyone who's on this call, because we're just a small group, I'm happy to sit down and go through with you your GC index profile. I've got, if you've taken it, great, I'll know. And you can just book directly into my calendar there. Thanks, Lorna. And we can go through and I'll share all of your results with you and give you a 30-page report. And if you didn't, that's fine. You have a bit more knowledge and information about how we can, what this is, and that this is a tool that's out there that's available to you. So please do feel free to book in. Be happy to just take you through, share with you, what does it mean to you? How did you stack up? I always found these things really fascinating because it always gives me some new insight about myself, and what's going on. And yeah, I think that is all. I just wanted to share one quote with you to leave us with today, which is this. Let me just grab that for you. There we go. Let's just share this last quote. I love this quote, so that's why I'm going to share it with you. If you're not making a difference in others people's lives, you shouldn't be in business. It's that simple. That's a Richard Branson quote. And I think, there's a testament to all of us that we really need to get to grips to understand, well, what is our value? What is our energy for impact? How do we make a difference in the world? And you could probably say shouldn't be in business / life in Richard Branson's quote, but how do we really make a difference? At the end of the day, we're all on this planet to contribute, to make a difference, and let's do that in the way that's most aligned with us, because that's going to be easiest for us. It's going to be the most joyful, it's going to be the most happiest. And if we can all do that, and we can help our team members get into that place, then we create these highly engaged, productive, profitable workplaces where everyone enjoys coming to work, and we have that happy, harmonious, healthy workplace that I so wish everyone could achieve. So with that, I'm concluded with everything that I wanted to share today. If anyone's got any questions, please raise them, or happy to stay on and answer and have a chat with anyone who wants to at the end of this. But otherwise, thank you all so much for your time and attention today. Really, really enjoyed chatting with you and sharing with you all about here, the GC Index. And I look forward to connecting with you. As I said, please do jump into my diary, and I'm happy to share your results with you, or just talk about any of the other work that I do in the whole area of leadership development, creating high performance teams and developing the talent cycle within your organization through the lens of the GC Index, where we've got everyone operating with their energy for impact and their contribution. So
that was really good.
Got anything else? You're welcome. That was really good. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyway,
thank you, Julia. Very interesting.
You are so welcome. Really, really nice to meet all of you. We'll send you a recording of this after the event, and some of those resources I talked about, the DNA of a game-changing team, will also send that. And look forward to meeting with a number of you on a call. And if you can't get hold of me for some reason, on my link, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I think most of us are all connected now, but my email is julia@businesshorsepower.com. So nice, easy email. Horses and business all go together. Business horsepower. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.